Blackhawks fans, welcome into the Four Feathers podcast, a winning edition. It's Johnny Nani alongside my guy Tony on tap. Tony, the weekend starts on Thursday. What a way to kick it off. How you doing, my friend?
Cheers, Johnny. We have a Blackhawks win to talk about. Victory beers in hand. I think you've got a little liquor drink going. Second show of the day for Tony on tap here. Just finished some Sox on tap with our guy NWI Steve. Got to catch the first period of this one with him and talk some White Sox. Glad to be on with you tonight and continue this celebration of Blackhawks win.
Yeah, cheers. Absolutely. It's good to be here talking about a win, a hard-fought win for our Blackhawks here this evening. So we're looking forward to the show. We've got a lot of good stuff in store here. Before we do any of that, though, make sure you go and subscribe over on OnTap Sportsnet on YouTube so you know when we go live, hit the little bell button. And then also join the comment section over there, like our guy Kirk, like our guy Skokes here. We love featuring your comments on the show. So you can only do that through YouTube or Facebook at OnTap Sportsnet on both of those platforms. Twitter/X people, we love you, but we cannot see your comments. So go over to YouTube and Facebook at OnTap Sportsnet. All right, Tony, let's dive in to this victory. 1-0 over the Anaheim Ducks tonight. It was good to see a win, and it was a little bit of a rarity because a low-scoring game. Blackhawks haven't had a shutout this year. They were able to accomplish that tonight.
Yeah, I think prior to this one, Johnny, there was some random crazy stat out there that the Hawks only won in games where they scored, I believe it was 4 or more goals. And, you got to win close games. These are tone setters, so to speak, especially from the defensive and goaltending positions. Not a lot of help there lately. And this one felt good because of that, because it was a low scoring game. I enjoyed it. Every now and then you want to see a shutout, and we got that from Peter Mrazek tonight. Just excellent goaltending. Again, something that I've been harping on for a couple of games now. It feels like maybe a solid 2 weeks of just not feeling great about goalie play. And man, Peter Mrazek showed up tonight. It was a great win.
Yeah, our guy Skokes in the comments here says Mrazek equals Wall. I would agree with that. 37 saves. He was perfect on both shorthanded and on the power play. Saved 4 shots on the power play for the Ducks there. Tony, I think you were hacked, though. Is this you giving Peter Mrazek praise? Is this real or is this a simulation right now?
This is 100% real, Johnny. I can hashtag confirm it's true. Just we'll get into Arvid Soderblom later, but Peter Mrazek, I think I've given him a couple of flowers so far this season. It's starting to happen a little bit more often than I was anticipating to start this year. That is 100% me giving Peter Mrazek some praise there.
All right. I like to hear it because you know me. I love my Family Guy meme. So whenever I can hype up Peter, my guy, I like to do it. So I was able to use that, the roller disco dancing gif of Peter after the shutout tonight.
Yes, you were.
Well deserved. Well deserved for Peter Mrazek. But he wasn't the only highlight in this game, Tony. We had a very nice power play goal, which also another surprise here. Shout out to surprise power play goals. A surprise for the Blackhawks in recent games here, and it was an extended one, and it was one that you felt like the Blackhawks really needed to score on with a double minor that they got there. But Philip Kurashev, it took into that second minute of the double minor, but Philip Kurashev able to convert on a shot from the high slot and an extremely nice feed and drawing defenders away by Connor Bedard. What do you see on this goal here?
I saw exactly what you saw. Tremendous feed from Connor Bedard. It's nice to see them score on the power play with the Bedard line out there, Johnny. That has been a problem thus far this season, is capitalizing on power play chances. You've given up what feels like far too many shorthanded goals. And this is a close one. This is a 0-0 game here in the second period. You have the opportunity on an extended power play, and the capitalization here is key. You like this being opportunistic, right? That's exactly what they did. They found a way to get one across the goal line, and I think it was more or less just a great opportunity for two of the young guys to connect on a power play opportunity. And Khrushchev needs more, though. I'm not satisfied yet with everything there. I want more of that. But good to see them firing the puck at the net in this situation versus trying to go to another pass or working the outside for a ton of time there. Sort of as soon as that zone entry comes in, you get that puck movement, get one on the net, and I like that a lot.
You still served it up on a silver platter for me because I was just going to talk about the zone entry and how did they get into the zone. It was Anthony Beauvillier, new acquisition, coming in and just sees the space across the middle of the ice. So he takes it and he skates into the zone and then down into that left wing corner. Eventually sets up that play that went from Bedard to Khrushchev there. With Beauvillier there, he did not wait for one of those drop passes. I feel like it's the dreaded drop pass at this point. And, it felt like anytime like Seth Jones was like coming into the zone, it would always be a wait for the drop pass, right? And then whoever has speed coming behind him to take it. And I know in years past that had been Patrick Kane being the guy to do that, but you could place Connor Bedard in there. I feel like they tried to do that earlier on in the season, but I like the assertiveness from the new guy, Anthony Beauvillier. Bo knows, Tony.
Hey, I mean, if that's what it takes to change up the look a little bit of the zone entries, that's been a hot topic amongst people talking about the Blackhawks specifically on the X platform. That's been a problem. And when it does work, Johnny, I don't feel like the offensive chances come as quickly as what you saw tonight.
Everyone gets a chance to set up, right? Defensively. You can do exactly what they want if you're waiting around for that pass there. So I just wanted to highlight that. And obviously, great shot by Khrushchev to finish it after Bedard with the sweet feed. So, Tony, it was, I'm wearing a White Sox shirt that says winning ugly right now, but I feel like the third period was a little bit of winning ugly for the Blackhawks. They only recorded one shot on goal in the third period, but they were able to stand tall defensively. And that's where this title of our episode comes from here. It's season 5, episode 16 of the Four Feathers podcast. Blackhawks stood tall defensively in that third period, and I like seeing Louis Crevier and Alex Vlasic out there with like a minute and a half, minute 45 left to go, showing that Luke Richardson trusts those young guys.
Yeah, I mean, this Blackhawks decor has a ton of size, and this is something that I can't remember the last time we had this much size on the blue line, Johnny, between Crevier, Vlasic, Seth Jones. There's some big bodies out there. It's nice to see the two young guns on the defense there get the opportunities. Obviously, Kevin Korchinski can be included in the young guns here as well, but specifically Vlasic and Crevier, Johnny, when you're watching them on the ice, I've seen some good puck control from Alex Vlasic. I've seen not enough of Crevier yet, but in a small sample size, and I'm just curious, your evaluations here, you look at defenders a little bit differently than I do. What are your thoughts there? Was this a signal that he's going to be trusted in these types of roles going forward? Because you've seen Vlasic get these types of opportunities so far this season. It doesn't seem to be that much different with the new guy.
Yep. I think I'm going to use a hockey cliche in that he plays a simple game, and that really benefits him, especially at his size. But he does what he needs to do, and playing a simple game, part of that is clearing the puck out when you have an opportunity. And part of the reason why he's able to do that, our guy Skokes so beautifully assists on here, and he says, I think Crevier skates well for being damn near 7 feet tall. Mm-hmm. Exactly. He's 6'8" out there, but he does not lumber. He's not very awkward with that height, like you can see sometimes, just depending on the guy. I mean, look at Tyler Myers. I know he had a good beginning of his career, but he's like a giraffe out there now, and he looks like he's kind of slipping around. Right? That's not the case with Luke Crevier. He's very solidly built, so his skating ability benefits him, and then his instincts. He just knows what to do, and this is impressive coming from a 7th round pick. So I like to see that out of Crevier there on the bottom pair. So good stuff on the Blackhawks locking this thing down. And obviously Peter Mrazek with some big saves down the stretch, 37 of them in total tonight. So that wraps up Blackhawks win. I think well deserved on that front. They needed it too. They were on a 4-game skid coming into this one, Tony, and part of that was because of a shootout loss on Tuesday against Nashville, which you were in attendance for. We don't need to rehash this whole thing. We can give Nick Foligno some flowers, 2 goals and an assist in that game. He did his damn best, but man, you get to the shootout and Arvid Soderblom. rough showing on Tuesday night, man. And it rehashes the question that we've brought up on the show previously: is Arvid Soderblom ass? I don't think we need to go through that whole discussion here, but I know that the Blackhawks faithful wasn't too happy with him after Tuesday's game.
They weren't, and I wasn't either. What are we doing here?
What are we doing 3. Here? That's rough, man. I mean, you didn't even give your team a chance to get to the third shooter. That's right. Rough.
You can't do that, and especially Bedard goes out, gets his first. I'm okay with 1-1. You have to make a save on one of those 2 shots, and I don't know about you. I'm sitting in the 300 level, right behind, the goal that they're shooting at here, Johnny, and I'm looking down the ice. I didn't really have the greatest of view on these, shootout moves from the Nashville side. But they didn't look super impressive by any stretch of the imagination.
I mean, Phil Forsberg's a goal scorer. Like you said, you could probably live with 1-1, right?
Yeah.
But after that, you're right. Nothing mind-blowing. No Patrick Kane.
Yes.
That's a goalie out of his skates, right?
You have to make a save there. This is the same problem that we had with Robin Lehner almost in the shootout.
He was bad.
He's bad in the shootout, and he's still considered a good goalie, I guess, when he's on. But Arvid Soderblom doesn't have the benefit of the doubt of being a goaltender that gets that kind of leeway in the NHL to just be absolute ass in the shootout, and that costs your team a point. That's how you lose trust with the fan base real quick. Yep. Great game up until that point. A lot of energy. Everything's there. And you have a chance to get an extra point in the standings. There's only one person that's on. I don't think that there's many shootouts that teams go 3 for 3 in the first 3 shooters. Normally something gets stopped. If it doesn't, that sort of signifies that you're ass, Johnny. At least in that situation.
Unfortunately, I feel like we're going to have to be debating this question all throughout the season because as it's been established here, and who knows, injuries may play a part down the road. I hope that's not the case, but it's hockey. It can happen. We saw it last year with the rotation that they had to go through. So I will say that, yes, it was the first shootout that the Blackhawks played in this season. So on one hand, you might be able to say that, and maybe next time around, you see how he responds to that. But at the same time, there's nowhere else to look. You can't put it on the defense. It wasn't Nikita Zaitsev in a traffic cone out there in front of you, right? So that's just where this discussion comes up. So unfortunately, we're just going to have to wait and see if this is the case. But overall, Arvid Soderblom's numbers in his NHL career to date, the results not there. And I know there's a lot that has been made about the defense that's played in front of him and the lack of run support, so to say, as we talk about for starting pitchers in baseball, lack of goal support for him, like just over 2
Arvid Soderblom is not Jose Quintana.
Yeah,
let's just put it that way.
I like that. I like that. I think our South Side listeners will appreciate that as well. I agree on that front. So I just wanted to get your take on that. We don't have to stew too much over that Nashville game. Like I said, good on Nick Foligno, though. Ron and I had talked about, Nick Foligno saying all the right things, but what are you going to do? How are you going to respond? Well, right after that, a day after that show was aired, he went out and walked the walk in addition to talking the talk with 2 goals and an assist. So Nick Foligno, de facto, Tony.
Yeah, I'm right there with you guys. He's quickly becoming one of my favorite players to watch play hockey on this Blackhawks team outside of Connor Bedard. Not only as you guys mentioned, he's really great with the media, has good messaging. I'm sure that echoes through the locker room as well. I hate to keep bringing up the Corey Perry situation, but I think that there's more weight on Nick Foligno now to be that leader. After Corey Perry departs this team, you're really left with, outside of Seth Jones, we talked about the forward group. Who's your leader there? It's Nick Foligno at this point. And you talk about de facto. That's yes, capital C. That's true. And there's a reason the media goes him. There's a reason that the statements and quotes and everything that's there. Coming out of his mouth after, whether it's a win or a loss, the messaging seems to say the same, and just a very stabilizing presence on this team right now that doesn't have a lot of stability that you can lean on. So I love it. And, multi-goal performances are cool and tough. And that's always going to be hashtag confirmed here.
Yep, and another thing, I don't know if it really came vocally like I had asked for in terms of picking up that leadership void that is left just naturally with a veteran like Corey Perry departing the team. Seth Jones, he had a couple of assists too in that Tuesday night effort, unfortunately, a losing effort. But, sometimes you let your numbers do the talking there too. I also still maintain that it's important publicly. You need to show face. You need to talk to the media, even if it's just for 5-10 minutes after a game, whatever, especially given their situation with no officially named captain there. But at least you got a couple of assists there to back that up on Tuesday night. Let's move on, Tony. A little bit of injury news here. You are the minister of grit here, and the minister of grit on the ice is Jarred Tinordi. He's back in concussion protocol now, just 3 games after returning from the IR with an oblique injury. How crushed are you over this?
I'm very sad. Very sad. It's very sad. And I'm crushed, dude. I love when Tinordi's in the lineup. And again, you want to go back to the leadership talk that we just had. There needs to be a grit too, right? There needs to be guys that are there to specifically, in my opinion, protect Connor Bedard. And I think that Jarred Tinordi provides some of that protection. When you start to look at this lineup, you got Connor Murphy out there. I think he's got some grit. You've got Nick Foligno, some grit. Then it starts to really drop off if you don't have Jarred Tinordi in your lineup, Johnny. I mean, can you really put anybody on Jarred Tinordi's level? He's given us the best fight highlights, I think, of any Blackhawks player over the last 2 seasons.
Right. Minister of grit. That's why
you have to be in the lineup. And I understand that the type of game that Jarred Tinordi plays is going to lend himself to injuries. So it's unfortunate to see him go down again. He's missed already a significant period of time this season. Last year, I think he had his jaw wired shut for a while. I don't want to call him the Yohan Moncada of the Chicago Blackhawks because he's never on the field. That's a hot topic for the Southside listeners again out there. He plays a tough style hockey. This is going to happen to him, and you'd hate for him to take that out of his game because I think that's what he brings to your team. But there's not a lot of depth there right now for the Hawks. You're missing some grit. So to speak. And yeah, it's just unfortunate.
Yeah. All right. We'll move on from the injury talk. Obviously, Tinordi not in the lineup in concussion protocol right now. Check ontapsportsnet.com for any updates on that front as they may come about. All right. Let's talk about Lukas Reichel next. The follow-up to being a healthy scratch Sunday. He was back in the lineup, albeit on the 4th line for both of these games to start this 4-game homestand. And how he's responded to that, he was a -1 with 1 shot and 2 penalty minutes in 12:21 on Tuesday against Nashville, and then 1 shot in 11:31 tonight. I know he got his power play looks, especially during that 4-minute penalty in tonight's game. But what does Lukas Reichel have to do to climb back up this lineup here?
Score goals.
Is there anything else he can do though with that limited ice time that he's getting right now in a 4th line role? That's kind of where I'd point this. I agree. Goals.
Here's the it's sort of a chicken and the egg to me, Johnny, because Lukas Reichel is going to develop and play his game more in a top 6 role right now on this Blackhawks team. Maybe if you're on a competing team, he might not even be in the NHL. He might be
at this point,
sent back down to the AHL at this point to sort of work on, scoring in top 6 minutes. I think the Hawks are just hard pressed with the current situation that they're in to make as drastic of a move as that. But if you're going to scratch him and throw him on the 4th line, are you letting him develop as a goal scorer? He's already been moved around so much this season, right? We start the year as a center There's a lot of debate there. What do we want to do with them? He goes through his struggles. He gets his wake-up call, and now you're demoted down to the fourth line. Maybe it's not a huge deal in the grand scheme of things, but there's already been a lot of movement.
Right.
It's almost, I hate to relate everything to baseball, Johnny, but like, are you a starter or are you a reliever? Let's pick a role a little bit for him and focus on the development this year. I know the Hawks are focused on results. I know it sucks, but you've been the champion of like, let's temper expectations for a second. We're not going to the playoffs this season. Do you see a benefit for him playing on the fourth line and trying to earn his way back up outside of like, hey, you need to earn it? Or where do you stand on this?
Yeah, I'll take the side of, I think this is Luke Richardson's methodology, because the healthy scratch he's not the first player to receive this treatment. Remember earlier this year in that game against Vegas? Yes, right. I brought that up on Monday when Ron and I were discussing this in Lukas Reichel being a healthy scratch, and I said I would be watching his response to this over this next home stretch of games, because I figured he would be back in the lineup. Sure enough, he was, and unfortunately, the outcome was that he was -1 and took a penalty in that game. But I think he was trying to do the right things. And I think I saw more of that assertiveness that left his game and led to him being a healthy scratch. If you go and look back at that road trip that just happened right before, obviously he did not play in the final game of it, but go and look at the Winnipeg game, go and look at the Detroit game, even a game that he scored a power play goal, and he ends up being a -2 in that game. I know he's -1 in this one, and plus minus isn't the end all be all. However, he was in the position that the Hawks wanted him to be in terms of being a aggressive, back checker and trying to generate a turnover, what have you. He just happened to get a stick up in the wrong area. That happens sometimes in hockey. So tough break for him on that front. So overall, I think I kind of like his response to this, and I like the way that he's handled it, because they've asked him about it, and I think he's humble about it, and he understands that he wasn't playing the game that the Blackhawks need him to play previously. So I think working back towards that is a positive thing in his development overall. And going back to one thing that you said, in the grand scheme of things, I think we'll just look at this as a blip on the radar, as long as that scoring can come and follow when he does get his opportunities back on that line. But in terms of the process of this, we're not going to Stanley Cup this year. We're not going to playoffs. Shit, we're going for another lottery pick, right? I'm okay with this type of tough love, so to say, from Luke Richardson. And it's not the full-on torts, I'll bet you, for a full fucking period, right? That's the way I look at it, and it's Luke Richardson's methodology of doing that, and it's sending the message, I think, and it'll take maybe a few more games for that to fully set in. But once one goes in the back of the net, as long as he maintains this level of drive that at least I've seen when he does get his limited minutes in the last couple of games, he'll be in a better position. Don't know if that means he'll be his long-term solution and an answer in a top 6 role, but he'll be on his way back towards earning those minutes.
I'm of the mindset now, after what you said, that the Luke Richardson methodology, and I think you put this very well, is at play here. Because originally my thought was, why not throw him back up in the top 6 and try and get that going again, give him more opportunities to play with higher skilled players to fit his game. But now that you think about it, after what you said, he's had that opportunity already. You've got to earn that back. And I like the fact now that, like there's a work in progress there. Right. Does it mean that you skate harder on a forecheck? Do you try and take a chance to go into a corner and dig a puck out instead of heading back for a shift change or whatever the little plays are? Because I'm sure they're looking at little things that don't show up on the score sheet here. Yeah. It's not just Lukas Reichel isn't on the score sheet for 5 or 6 games in a row.
It's not just John Dietz's analysis that matters, right?
Right. There's little things that the coaching staff and Luke Richardson are watching, versus how they're performing in practice, and a lot of things that you don't see or even commentated on by the, wonderful broadcasting staff that we have here for the Chicago Blackhawks. So you can point these things out. We'll get to that in just a minute, but that's made it hard to evaluate things because
Right.
I think if you really look at Lukas Reichel's game thus far, you hear a lot in the media right now about what's not going right, and you see the healthy scratch. You see him demoted to the fourth line. There's not a lot of explanation to the common hockey fan. What is like Lukas Reichel doing wrong outside of just not scoring a goal? So I think the easy thing for people to gravitate towards is why isn't he showing up on the score sheet? This might not even be that. It could be the whole process behind it of a
Yeah.
lot of those other things.
So you remember back in school, and now like the thing is that a certain way of teaching might not work best for a student given how they receive that teaching. They gave him the prop up at first. You're great, and we're gonna we expect you to be a center, and we're gonna you're gonna be start the season at center, even though he played wing in the past years. And Kyle Davidson gave him the whole fluff up before the season. That didn't work. You saw the drop in the scoring.
Yep.
Now we're going to the Luke Richardson School of Tough Love here. So I think this one will hopefully drive better results. It may take your lumps along the way, but sometimes that's part of the learning process. That's the way I look at it. All right, we got to move on to the next topic and talk about that broadcast that you brought up, man. I'm sorry. We got to talk about Chris Vosters here. TV broadcast has been bad. Okay. As we'd say over on Sox on Tap. Thanks, Mr. Mackey. It's been bad. Okay. So much so, Tony, that I used to just do this for ESPN broadcast. Now, tonight I had to, and it was a much more enjoyable experience. Obviously, the win, but I had to sync up John and Troy on the TV broadcast. And I just want to point out a few examples here that some of our excellent Twitter/X followers brought up here. And JM7144 says he's just spewing guys' names out without context added. And I got to pull up the examples here to tell you what I'm talking about, because I think any listener to Four Feathers podcast that also watches Blackhawks game and has listened to Chris Vosters broadcast in recent days knows what I'm talking about here. This is JM, says Reichel, Donato, Vlasic, Reichel, says, kill me. I can't listen to him anymore. Fair point. I agree with that. That's annoying. It doesn't give you any context about what's going on. Our guy Voodoo pointed that out as well to me on the X Machine tonight. Semi Emigan says, Bedard. High slot. It's in. Bedard did not, in fact, score that goal. But from the call, we have no idea who did score or how they did it. And then we got another one from Sticks and Pucks. And they say, I'm so sorry, but Vosters is hard to listen to. Bedard picked up speed and completely fooled Saros in the shootout, yet Vosters just gives us Bedard. And that's it. No explanation. Nothing. Foley would have said something like, Kane deacon the goalie out of their pads or whatever, what have you. Those are the examples there. And once you have those in mind, I had to repost those on the Four Feathers X. Go follow us over there at Four Feathers Pod. Now we've got other people chiming in and saying, now I can't unhear it. Now it's in my brain. And it actually is really bad. I don't like what I hear. Tony, I don't like what I hear either. From this point on, until someone tells me that it got better on the TV side, whenever I have the capability, I'm going to sync up John and Troy until this improves.
I don't blame you. You do this all the time for whether it's baseball or any sport. You're the master of hooking up the radio and this and that and all the audio stuff. I'm a simple dude. I like to flip on my cable TV and have things just work for me. I've got two trains of thought going, sort of conflicting in my mind. I'm obviously a huge Pat Foley guy. I mean, there were so many things that Pat Foley did. Tremendous call of the game. No matter what you say, Pat Foley was more universally loved, I think, by Blackhawks fans than even somebody who's a White Sox fan didn't have all in on Hawk Harrelson, right? Or Jason Benetti still had his back and forth. Talk about announcers in Chicago. I'm sure on the north side, Harry Carey was universally loved, just like Pat Foley was for the Blackhawks. Hockey is probably the most difficult game to call. Pucks moving around, just the pace of the game is a lot different than baseball or football, even basketball to that matter. There's a lot more slowdown. not as many changing players coming on and off the ice. It's difficult. Ron was a huge Chris Vosters supporter, our guy Ron Luce, when this whole thing
during the
made
selection
its
process.
change.
But I think he's kind of backed off of that a
He's
little bit, given
backed off
recent
of it a lot.
examples that I just cited there.
So I'm at the point now where I listen to Chris Vosters, and like, to be honest with you, I listen to it and I'm not going to turn it off because there's moments of content that can be created out of
how bad it is.
The mishaps. For real though. Like, and to a point now, I'm almost like that's valuable, right? Like, we can all talk about this and converse about it. It's not dry. Like, he's giving you content. It might not be great from like a hockey standpoint, but he's gonna say something throughout the game or do something that's worth talking about afterwards. So I give him credit for that, right? Like, he's making the headlines, probably not for the right reason. Then there's the other portion of this that's the names that were just shouting out incessantly as the puck is moving around. One, he would make the worst radio broadcaster of all time.
Yeah.
At least with the television. And I'm guilty of this. I'm looking at this thing the entire game, right? I'm on Twitter, I'm answering messages, and I want to hear what's going on. I don't think that the, Bedard, Khrushchev, Bedard, because you hear that the whole time. If you're looking down at your phone, you have no fucking clue what's going on. And let's be real, 90% of us probably have our phone in our hand while we're watching the game for some reason or another for at least 5 to 10 minutes out of the game, if not more. He's not being descriptive enough for you to follow things. But if you put this down and just actually watch the game, you're fine. You're fine. You could watch it on mute, because there's been people in the comments who've said, I just mute the TV and listen to other things. You can watch it. Why? Like, I don't know, outside of, hey, this is like funny almost to watch, where do you go from there? It's not a great broadcast by any stretch of the imagination. I saw people coming after Darren Pang as well too. Now
I was going to bring
that
up.
Jumps in.
That doesn't help Vosters in that when Darren Pang takes a national, I understand it's a lot of travel, and he was up in Western Canada. It was Oilers, Canes last night late that he was at, and I understand that. So, but he's out then with the Blackhawks playing Tuesday, Thursday, Wednesday being the national game. He's out to travel there on Tuesday, so he misses that one. Then he's obviously Wednesday is the game itself, and then Thursday maybe not enough time to get back. So that's already 2 here that he's missing, and he's definitely the strong suit of that broadcast team, right? So is not doing Vosters any favors there, because I think Kaylee Chelios has good hockey takes, but someone mentioned monotone there. And, unfortunately, that's just, sometimes you just can't fix that. It's just the way that they speak, right? So that's not doing Vosters any favors there. Beyond that, I think we're going to probably have multiple conversations about this throughout the year, but we got to wrap up, get to what's on tap next, get out of here. One last thought on it, and this is just me, personal opinion. Vosters also has a personality, and sometimes it's vibrant, and sometimes he shares some good stuff. If you follow him on social media and you get some updates from morning skate or whatever, some decent content or videos of practice and all of that. He's also a TikTok announcer. That's what I like to call him, because he likes to make the selfie fucking videos and all of that stuff. And you know what? That's fine and dandy. I understand it's a new age here and there, but he looks like an in real life Wojak, Tony, and it's cringe to me. And my uncle once told me, I got lost. I went to the Chicago Auto Show. I was probably only in like 3rd grade. Me and my cousin, who was probably only in 5th grade at the time, we got lost, separated. It took like 30 minutes for my uncle and my grandpa to find us. And when he found us, he told me one thing. He said, you can't fix stupid. And I'm going to apply this to Chris Vosters here, and just his personality and his aura. It's cringe, and he can't fix cringe. So unfortunately, he's kind of pitted. He's pitted in the wrong side of my brain here. That's where I'll leave it at.
I think a lot of people are right there with it, on the same note that you're on, and they're done with it. I don't know how long that relationship will last. It's unfortunate because he seems to love the job. He seems to enjoy
I think he's
being
a nice
part of.
guy. There's
Yeah,
nothing
he
against
seems
the
to be
guy.
one of the
He's a
really
genuine person,
great
but
dudes. To be honest, I wouldn't mind him calling a White Sox game on a trial basis to
right.
replace Jason Benetti because he's done baseball before and seems to be a nice enough guy that can do stuff, hold a fan base, provides extra content, all that other stuff that broadcasters have to do now. I just think hockey's out of his depth. Like he's in over the deep end. He doesn't have a bad voice for broadcasting. I better than mine. I said, like it's way better than mine. So I give him credit for that. It's just the level of detail when it comes to calling a hockey game. Maybe that's not it. I don't know.
Yeah, right. And keeping up with the pace too. I think that's another big part of it too, which when you hear the names just rattled off one after the other, when it's a, quick passing play is what ends up, really being a standout example, like some of our excellent followers over on X pointed out. All right, we're getting down to the last couple minutes of the show here, so it's time to take a look at what's on tap next. Homestand continues with 2 more games, a back-to-back weekend against the St. Louis Blues on Saturday. That'll be 7 o'clock.
And you're excited for these ones.
I am. They're evening games. Very nice. Like to see that build up all day. 7 o'clock puck drop Saturday night. Play Bay City Rollers. Let's go. And then
is that Johnny's best day ever?
Yeah. And then one of those great 6 o'clock starts on Sunday, 6 o'clock at the UC. Both of those games on NBC Sports Chicago. All right, Tony. The burning question here is: do the Blackhawks finally record wins in consecutive games for the first time this season? Are they going to beat the Blues on Saturday night? Is what I'm asking.
Tough time against the Blues last game out.
That was also on worst day ever, though.
So. That was on worst day ever. So we need to make it Johnny's best day ever, and that's why I think I'll go out on a limb. Best night ever. Best night ever. Johnny's best night ever. Yes, they have to win on Johnny's best night ever. So
yeah, the adult playground, playground that is the UC and surrounding bars. That's what Saturday night's for, not matinee games. Saturday night hockey night in Chicago. Let's go.
There you go. Let's get those back to backs.
I'm going with you too. Let's get it. Let's lock it down. And then I think you're going to be in attendance Sunday. Do we get a little weekend sweep here, or do the Capitals find a way to squeak one out here?
It's the Capitals, so I don't know. I'd like the back-to-back wins. I don't want to sit here and make predictions of going to a game and watching a loss. You're putting me in a tough spot here. Why not go for 3 in a row? I think they call that a winning streak. It has happened before.
It has happened before. Yeah. All right. I'll go opposite you and say loss against the Capitals due to my predictions on Monday's show. So
fair enough.
I'll leave it at that. All right. We are just about out of time here on the Four Feathers podcast. We appreciate everyone tuning in after a Blackhawks 1-0 win over the Anaheim Ducks, shut out by Peter Mrazek. Good stuff to kick off the weekend, because we all know weekend starts on Thursday here at OnTap Sportsnet. Speaking of that, make sure you're subscribed over on YouTube at OnTap Sportsnet and like us on Facebook as well. Same handle. Go and join the comments section like our good friends Skokes, Kirk, plenty of other you that have joined in on the discussion. We cannot see your comments from X/Twitter, so make sure you're joined in on YouTube and Facebook there. And as always, check out ontapsportsnet.com for all your Chicago sports literature and podcasting needs. You can find us on the socials at Four Feathers Pod and at OnTap Sportsnet. That'll do it for this edition of the Four Feathers podcast. Until next time, let's go Hawks.
Let's go Hawks.